how our universities, especially the leftist faculties, are brainwashing our youth. They start becoming part of a war against Indian state.
Yes. And if you as a parent question the school system and say, my values are different, I will teach different stuff, the school has a right to say that you don't have the final authority to educate your child. This child has human rights. If you, the parent, are violating, we'll take the child away from you. United Nations is into this. UNESCO is into this. In Indian society, there have been trans people.
Yeah.
But we don't politicize it.
Intellectualism in India and the scholarship in India in year 2000. And if you were to compare it in 2025,
It's gone down.
importing American values, more or less.
Importing American values and the very left-wing American values.
Tell me, what are the things I will get out of your book, Who's Raising Your Children? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to my podcast, Brutally Honest. I'm doing it after a very long time. I was busy with the shoot of my film. In fact, this is the first podcast I'm doing after 5-6 months. And this is a very, very special podcast. Because the person whose book I read, and then I decided to explore that theme more and more. And finally, that journey of research ended up in my film, Buddha in a Traffic Jam, and later as a book in Urban Naxals, whose theory, whose hypothesis I took it forward to prove it further. One of the genuine intellectuals, if there are very few left, I believe, genuine intellectuals, a person with inspiring record of courage, commitment, and academic work. Shri Rajiv Malhotra ji from Princeton is here today, and I am lucky to find some of his time, and I requested, please come, we'll discuss few things here. So he's here, please welcome Rajiv Malhotra ji.
Well, thank you for being such a good friend and being a great filmmaker and intellectual, very courageous yourself, thinking out of the box, provoking people to think for themselves with evidence. So I like talking to you.
Thank you. So welcome to India. And your new book has come, Who is Raising Your Children? And this is something everybody has been discussing for quite some time, how our children are being wired to think in a certain way. In my film Buddha in a Traffic Jam, we explored this issue of that how our universities, especially the leftist faculties, are brainwashing our youth, especially the middle class, small town youth who come to big city, they are in awe of everything, and they believe that whatever their professors are saying is the truth, ultimate truth. And they start, without knowing, they start becoming part of a war against Indian state.
Yes.
And that time I was only Breaking India you wrote, so I started thinking that direction. But now you have gone further in saying that in our schools,
Yes.
schools means children below 16, 17 years.
Kindergarten up.
They are being with this woke lobby and with this Marxist lobby and the leftist lobby, whatever you want to call it. They actually are wiring or brainwashing these children.
Yes.
I will take one step further to wage a war against the society per se.
That is correct.
Please, can you explore it?
Yes.
You talk, I want to listen.
So this is a great opportunity for me because you framed the question very nicely. The basic problem is if we don't have a clear understanding of our own grand narrative, there is a vacuum. So others come and fill it. These others are very keen to bring their narrative, whether it is Maoism, whether it is whatever it is, they keep bringing, that's the Breaking India premise, because if we were very strong, very clear, very assertive about who we are, then we would not be so vulnerable. We can blame other people, but we've made ourselves vulnerable. Now, in this book, what we're examining is the education system in the United States has been taken over by Marxists. This is the first point. People think it's a capitalist country, free market country, but the extreme left of the Democratic Party, who call themselves progressives, have taken over in the last 10 years, 10, 15 years. First the Harvard and the upper higher education, and now school education. This whole diversity, equity, inclusion under the name of diversity, which we all want. But that has become politicized, vote banks, conflicts, blacks versus whites, Muslims versus non-Muslims. Muslims have joined as we are oppressed. Palestinians are oppressed, Jews are oppressors. So now it has become like Muslims everywhere are oppressed, non-Muslims are oppressing us, Dalits are oppressed, non-Dalits are oppressing them, LGBTQ is oppressed, non-LGBT. Now Khalistanis have joined in, as we are also oppressed because the Indian state is oppressing us. So this has opened the door to all sorts of people who claim to be oppressed in their society, a coalition of the oppressed, which is what wokeism is. A coalition of people who perceive themselves as oppressed, who want to topple, destroy, bring things down, dismantle, and so on. Now, this...
So, you're saying revolution of the oppressed.
Revolution of the...
Here I want to understand, from
Yes.
my understanding.
Yeah.
So, I understood you are saying that they have divided the world into oppressed and the oppressor.
Correct.
This is what communism and Marxists have always been doing.
Basically, yes.
Now, I want to ask you a question. But at the same time, wokes and these, the so-called liberals, they talk about non-binary.
Yes.
They say, in today's terms, their fundamental ideology is non-binary.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
But in practice, they are doing the binary.
Yes. That's a contradiction.
That's the contradiction, and I've never understood
Yeah,
this.
it is. It's a valid contradiction, and it has to be pointed out all the time, because even oppressed is a binary.
So this is generalizing, means umbrella blanket. Okay, if you are a black, then all of you are oppressed.
Yes.
And if you are a Dalit, you are oppressed,
Yes.
even if you are an IS officer.
Right.
But you are still oppressed.
And there are
your children
Yes.
who are studying in Harvard, they are also oppressed.
Yes. Yes.
And a Brahmin whose son is a poor peasant or somebody who's driving an auto rickshaw, he's an oppressor.
Yes. So, firstly, that is the starting point. That's an assumption. Then the cure is that the oppressor has to be dismantled. There is no win-win. There is no negotiation. You cannot work out a deal, because Marx clearly said there has to be violent revolution and you have to destroy.
Yeah.
It is so that has to happen. So this is a very destructive tendency, and this is why there is riots in Harvard and Columbia and all that stuff, and nobody knows how did it happen so suddenly. Well, it happened because for the last 10, 15 years they've been working on it. And these sleeper cells are also in India, in many, many, many places. But in the previous book, Snakes in the Ganga, we talked about higher education. We talked about...
We had discussed that book.
Yes.
We had a podcast on that.
That's correct. We discussed higher education. Here we're discussing from K through 12. What has happened in...
So if I have a small child
Yes.
in 5th grade or 6th grade, tell me, what are the things I will get out of your book, Who's Raising Your Children?
Right. That is the point. So now United Nations, I'll back off and come to this point in a moment. United Nations was meant for development of poor countries. But then another thing was added, sustainability. Because the climate and all that, we need sustainability. Poor countries want to burn oil and coal to develop because they need energy. They don't have the luxury of clean energy yet. While the rich countries said we should not let the poor countries pollute. So there was a compromise made called sustainable development, which means development for the poor countries, but sustainability should be added. So the United Nations came up with Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, 2030. And every country is supposed to comply with that, have targets.
Yeah.
But then they added one more thing called social justice. So now it is a trick, because when you add social justice, human rights, the question is who defines it? Who defines it? So human rights is a sort of a political football. Burqa and 4 wives is not a human right violation, according to this, okay, because they want to exempt the Muslims. But upper caste Hindus are violating the rights of Dalits. Khalistanis have gone and convinced the Canadian government, Australian government, many other places that in Punjab there is oppression going on. They are oppressed, so they should have. access to immigration. You know, there's an express immigration line for Khalistanis. They're entitled to refugee because their life is in danger back home in the Punjab. So this is all political, how this has been done. So this has become something that the United Nations is influencing. Education. So education, SDGs there are 17 SDGs in the United Nations, Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 4 is about education. And so they have now entered the education field that every human being has to be educated according to certain standards. And we have bought into that. India has bought into that. So according to these standards, gender fluidity is one of the things that a child is entitled to exploring. Am I a boy? Am I a girl? Okay. So this business of that there are only two genders, two sexes is to be challenged. United Nations is into this. UNESCO is into this. So that is a huge disruption for our values, parents. And if you as a parent question the school system and say, my values are different, I will teach different stuff, the school has a right to say that the child is not, you don't have the final authority to educate your child because the state knows better. This child has human rights. And we, the state, are going to protect the child with his human rights. If you, the parent, are violating, we'll take the child away from you. So there are many those kinds of things. So this assault on family versus school system as to who's raising the children. Is it the family values or is it the school system that the government has put in its own ideologies and values? And these values have to do with gender, trans, fluidity, the child's right to change his gender with blockers, these chemicals that castrate you chemically, change yours. So all this is happening in a very, very big way in the United States, and it started coming to India. It has started coming to India. So the NCRT has opened this door because they have not put in a curriculum which is Indian values. So they've left it open, and there are packages, pre-packaged, plug-and-play modules, pedagogy coming from overseas, and the Indian schools are bringing that in. So there's two primary attacks on the child. One is sexuality, and there's something called comprehensive sexuality education.
You have written about over-sexualizing children in school.
Children, teaching them masturbation, teaching touch yourself and how does it feel, and do you...
But what's wrong with that? They say it's sex education.
No, sex education was different than sexuality education. Sex education is with the old style, sex education is advise them not to take risk, not to get pregnant, not to get disease, not to get harassment, your rights. So it's a safety-oriented approach. It is not indulgence and gratification from age 5 onwards. So now it is maximizing your gratification as a right of the child. This is very interesting. The right of the child for sexual gratification is to be encouraged. So this is...
I read a term, sexual empowerment. They said, if we are talking about emotional empowerment, why shouldn't there be sexual empowerment?
Sexual empowerment is a right of the child.
Yes, so right is coming even before he's an adult. Sexual rights.
Sexual rights from the age of 5 onwards. From kindergarten onwards, you have sexual rights as a human being, and the job of the school system is to educate you about your sexual rights, and you can assert those over your parents. If the parents don't like it, tough luck. Now, this is what brought Trump into power, one of the main reasons, because the parents had it. They just pissed off that this is too much. And so parents got organized, and one of the major vote banks for Trump was parents against all of this woke education. So this sexualizing and over-sexualizing is one. Second problem is something called global citizenship education. Yeah. That everybody should become a global citizen. Now, of course, it sounds very nice.
It doesn't sound nice to me.
I want my kids to become global citizens, but then who defines the global citizenship?
Yeah.
So in China, they've done a very clever thing. They've said to be a global citizen, you should promote the Belt and Road Initiative. That is global. मतलब जो हमारी बात है, whatever is suits our nationalism, you should project it overseas, and that's called being a global citizen. Promote the Chinese point of view on Pacific, on Himalayas, on whatever it is, Chinese point of view on technology, whatever. So they want to first make you nationalistic. understand the national agenda, and then you become an ambassador of the national agenda overseas. That's called global citizenship. So it's very good for them. India has not brought in nationalism as the foundation and then say, okay, your global citizenship is to promote this overseas. So because we don't have our own narrative anchored in the school system, global citizenship is these global values coming in from elsewhere, including this LGBTQ, including this trans.
Importing American values, more or less.
Importing American values and the very left-wing American values. More
left-wing. Yeah.
More. So these people are called globalists who are promoting this agenda. They are promoting through the World Economic Forum. They're promoting it through the UNESCO. UNESCO has been taken over by left-wing people. And so World Health Organization is another, because we think that World Health Organization is just spreading good disease prevention and all that, but it's got an ideology. So World Health Organization has started promoting sexuality as a part of your health for children. So Trump has withdrawn. US has withdrawn a week ago. US withdrew from WHO.
See, I'll just butt in as a filmmaker and storyteller, since I'm in the entertainment world. So I can also give you one more input, which you can also research on. Also, it is being spread through mass media. Okay, and very exciting media, concerts, huge concerts, big shows, fanfare, superhero movies. This industry has been taken over by Vox.
Yes.
And mostly LGBTQ community. So I call it super normalization, okay, of this sexuality in mainstream media.
Yes.
So that is also playing a very, very big role.
Absolutely.
And Instagram, for example, has become a very sophisticated pornographic medium.
Yes.
Where everybody is sexualizing it.
Right.
Twitter also now, if you see, it's like pornography is open in there.
Right.
Okay. Now, this is reaching younger children. Very, very young children. Yeah. From age 10 to age 20, impressionable age.
Right.
And they think all these icons are doing it.
Right.
If Taylor Swift is like dancing and with 100 dancers, okay, and they are making a point to do activism on stage and promote this over-sexualizing.
Right.
I think that is also contributing.
Absolutely. That's all part of this. In fact, they're also in India.
Where India failed in this.
In India, they are marketing apps. Some of the states are marketing educational apps, and those apps have come from overseas.
Yeah.
And so the parents don't. This is a secret way to communicate with kids without parental supervision, because app is something very personal. Nobody knows what's going on. And under the garb of educating, they're putting all this pornography, this kind of stuff in the apps. So the messaging is out of the parental control and out of our culture, heritage, and our national interest. At the same time, scores for math, reading, etc. going down. So what has happened is now the criteria for evaluating a teacher and a school system is what are you doing about pronouns? What are you doing about drag queen? This drag queen where men dress up like women and they perform and all that. And so kids are being asked to do that. So kids are being confused about their gender. So what has happened is this kind of a faddishness is taking precedence over actual learning. So it's not just the problem of teaching them these things, but what you are not teaching is skills to get them a job, to get them a career, to make them a responsible citizen. Actual knowledge, IQ is going down. Actual attention span is going down. It's becoming more titillating, this kind of stuff. So you are destroying a whole generation. And the problem is that China has banned all this. China is not taking all this nonsense. China is not taking this nonsense. The Arab countries are not taking this nonsense. Russia is not taking this nonsense. Japan has stood up to this. This is more of a European, American kind of a thing entering India.
And is it coming because the society is guilty about not being able to spend time with children, or because of the lack of family system? Is it also guilt a component where they say, okay, fine, whatever they are saying, doing, let them do? Because rights in India, I had never seen any child or up to 17, 18 years standing up and asking parents for their rights. That this is my right. I can smoke in front of you is my right. Because we have such a strong Before government does anything, family will discard him or somebody will slap him.
Right.
But now I am seeing, especially in urban India, uh, this is like normalized.
Yeah. So the word normalized is a very powerful word I want to explain. In Indian society, there have been trans people.
Yeah,
There is no problem.
no
We have
problem.
no problem. There's LGBTQ people. There's no problem. But we don't politicize it.
Yeah.
There's a 1% fringe or whatever small fringe. What is the problem is that they are now not only normalizing the 1%, but putting pressure on the other 99% to actually change.
Yeah.
That is a problem. So now they are saying that there's something guilty about you if you're not one of these people. So you better become one of them or behave like that, pretend to be like that. And children are under pressure to transition, to become trans, to switch. A large percent of girls, especially, who are teenage girls, are opting for, I'm not sure I want to be a girl, this kind of a thing. So taking the 1%, it's one thing to respect them and let them be how they are. But to create conflict in society by saying this is normal and the other people have to be guilty and they have to compensate for this creates a kind of tension in society.
And that's why I think there's a lot of chaos and conflict in the society, because also 1% is putting pressure
Yes.
on 99%. They are telling us what to speak, what
Yes.
terms to use. They're
Yes.
changing the jargons.
The-
Now I'm in public speaking, I'm very often conscious which word to use, which not to use.
Right.
Because in certain universities, when I was talking, see, okay, yes, you can be very modern, up to date, but you cannot be up to date with some little jargon which has changed in the fringe group.
Right.
Now they're saying you can't say this word, you can't use that word. So in that way, I liked when Trump came and he said, now there'll be only two genders,
Right.
men and women, right? But don't you think in American society it's going to have repercussions?
So what this is the real revolution going on in America. The Trump revolution is to push out the woke. That's the number one thing they want to do.
Okay.
They want to get rid of this diversity, equity, inclusion, this trans, all these kind of things. But what has happened in the meantime, as far as India is concerned, is these old woke ideas have become indexes of evaluating companies. There's a DEI index, there's an ESG index, there's an index of democracy index. All these kind of very liberal left-wing indexes have come. By their own criteria, they're evaluating a company, a country, a government, a person, a filmmaker. So they're rating people. And these ratings have the power to decide who gets funding, whose share goes up or down in value. So companies like Arthur Andersen, Price Waterhouse, Ernst & Young, these kind of I would say more like Price Waterhouse, Ernst & Young and McKinsey kind of companies, Boston Consulting, they are going around evaluating the index of such criteria for company A, B, C, including Reliance, including Tata's, all of them are being evaluated, and then they're coming under pressure to align themselves with what these consultants are preaching. So through the HR department in corporate India, these ideologies are coming in whom you hire, how you promote. So you've heard that Boeing has had many accidents. But now there's an inquiry to find out, has this been the result of hiring people not based on merit, but based on these criteria?
I know this Washington airport, this aircraft
Yes.
accident, recently.
Yes.
This I read some
Yeah.
discussion on that.
Yeah. So now, I don't want to find out that a very serious surgery of mine is being done by somebody who's hired on a quota and not based on merit.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a surgery like that. I would like the best surgeon.
But in India, we are living with this problem for a very long time.
India is living with the problem.
India is a huge problem.
Yes.
I mean, and I don't know why it's a taboo subject.
Yeah.
It's a taboo subject because people who are in authority, okay, they want it to remain a taboo subject. You can't talk about it. Which is, see, I just want to address a problem which I hear from most of the students. It is not my problem. I don't face that problem. But I just want to tell you because it's related to students and I want your comment on that. In India, most of the universities, students have a problem. They say, okay, there may be 70% Dalits and OBCs in this country. Okay, we agree they are underprivileged, the disadvantaged section of the society. But does that mean that we have no voice? Why our voice is suppressed? If we talk about merit, in a qualitative argument, in an academic argument, can you say no, quality should not be respected?
Yes.
Or
And I,
quality should not be promoted?
yes.
They are saying if there's quality in the 70%, please promote it.
Yes.
But let there be a competition based on merit.
That's correct. Otherwise, you become a mediocre society and
Yeah.
you lose the global race.
And they are saying, okay, you want to continue reservations. We think it's unfair. Tell us 10 years, 15 years, but stop it somewhere.
So, I'll tell you, you would never have a cricket team based on quotas.
No.
You would lose. You would never have a army based on quotas. You want the best fighters.
Yeah.
So, in any competitive game, it has to be that way.
Yeah.
No one would win. No country would win if it's army or if it's sports teams or scientists. Let's say scientists are allocated on quota and not on merit. Your scientific advancement will not be there.
Yeah.
So merit is very fundamental to being accomplished, and you have to encourage that.
And we have always been a merit
Yes.
oriented society.
Now here is my suggestion. If somebody says what to do with the Dalits and OBCs, they need help.
Yeah.
I would say if you start from kindergarten and you have to take a whole generation, put those kids in good schools, hire teachers who are qualified, improve the salaries of those teachers, and raise them, then they'll probably be able to enter college on merit. Their scores will be good by the time they get through high school. If they have 12 years of good education, then you've prepared them on merit to enter society. But if the school education is poor, which is the case, school education is very poor in this country, then at the end of high school, suddenly saying uska quota hoga to get into a prestigious college, you're trying to get him into an IIT when he doesn't have the merit, and he's not going to be able to learn what's going on in class. It's going to be over his head. He'll bring the whole standard down. So they're not starting early enough because they're in a hurry to fix the problem at the later age. But you have to wait for a whole generation. You have to start in early childhood education. And then I'm sure whatever the kid may be, whatever background the kid may be, if he's had good education for 12 years schooling, he has a good chance to be fit for college on merit.
Yeah, and see, and this wokeism, the wokes, the problem is I am in an industry where I deal all the times with them. It's full of wokes, So, but the problem with wokes, I also have two kids. They have just a few years ago, they finished their schooling college. But the problem with the wokes is that they are intolerant people. They do not want to listen to any other argument. So what has happened, this entire generation, which has grown up in this woke culture in last 10-15 years especially, these kids, I worked with them. Recently I finished a very big film. We had the entire team was young people. So obviously they are semi-wokes, full wokes, ultra wokes. They are not willing to listen to the other side of the argument.
Yes, that's called cancel culture. They have been told that there is something called cancel culture, which means you cancel out the other fellow.
Yeah.
Because he's the oppressor, he does not have the right to speak.
Yeah.
So their idea is that the narrative has been dominated by the oppressors. So to fix it, the oppressors should be silenced so that the oppressed have a chance to bring out their narrative. So that's their logic. So no matter how much sense I'm making, they'll say, but you're one of the upper caste or whatever it is, you're one of the elites, so we're going to cancel you, shout you, throw you out. That's what's happening in colleges. That cancel culture.
Teachers, so many professors keep telling me that they have to think many times before speaking in the classroom because some word may offend somebody. What do you do? People are, then they're getting offended very easily. I mean, what kind of character are we building in school? What kind of students we are creating in our schools that they are so touchy they get offended with anything?
So this will not work in the global economy. I mean, such people are not going to be यहाँ पर pamper कर देंगे शायद, and you may be fine here, but you go to the global economy, nobody's going to care for you. If you're not able to produce, you'll be thrown out. So because the society is becoming so competitive everywhere in the world, countries that produce results, products, technology, patents, whatever, they're going to do well. And that requires brains and hard work, and it's not a politics of identity, quotas and all that.
But why India is not winning this game?
So India, I think
The game of narrative.
the game of
Despite a very right wing ecosystem now.
yeah.
After 10 years, we can't say that ecosystem doesn't exist.
So I'm frankly disappointed by the present regime in the education sector and in the culture ministry. And the culture ministry hasn't really gone into the narrative building. They haven't really gone. The Ministry of External Affairs has ICSSR, which is the Indian Council of I think the Indian Council of Cultural Relations,
Ji.
Cultural Relations,
ICCR.
ICCR. So they haven't done a whole lot. So I think the ICCR, Ministry of Culture, and HRD are the problems that haven't. They have the resources to have done this, and they haven't spent time to do this. The narrative building is just like some YouTube fellows here and there, some Manthan and all that, but deep research hasn't happened. Deep and NCRT books have not changed. So this is somehow not the priority of the government.
But then the counter argument is that isn't it the intellectual societies, the community, intellectual community, the community of scholars and academicians, isn't it their responsibility that they spearhead this and they
So
take initiative?
I am as a one man doing the best I can.
Yeah.
But I don't have the machinery, the government to support and take it further. I would love to take my stuff. I don't need money, salary, and I don't ask for anything. But I would love to teach it put it in the curriculum. But the curriculum requires UGC, NCRT. There's a lot of politics on what gets into the curriculum. So the intellectual can produce all he wants unless it is he won't get the scale of audience that the government could deliver.
Okay, let me ask you a very unique question. If you were to compare intellectualism in India and the scholarship in India in year 2000, and if you were to compare it in 2025,
It's gone down.
you didn't even wait for my question. You
Yeah.
concluded it's gone down.
Yes.
Please elaborate why. And it's not to. I don't want it to be critical of somebody. I just want to understand what are the areas where we have gone down and why, so we can improve upon that.
Yes, good question. Very important question. I keep thinking about this. When I started my own movement 35 years ago, quit my whole business career and got into this, it was a one-man show. It was also very difficult. It was scary. I was targeted. I was a sort of lone fighter doing all these things. But it was also stimulating and exciting for me that I could be in a room filled with all kind of people saying something, and I'm the only one standing up and raising a question. It's also exciting that I have the courage to do that and argue back and convince some of these people. Now, that was the first many years, a few decades of my life were like that. After 2014, what happened is the floodgates of Hindu right-wing narrative opened, but the people, everybody could come in. Everybody who was singing the praise of Hindu right-wing could come in, but they did not have the credentials. They hadn't worked so hard. They hadn't done the tapasya which is required, and they could just overnight claim because they got a forum. So a lot of people became influencers. A lot of these manthans started in the last 10 years, and so. Quantitatively, it has done better. Qualitatively, it's shallow. So it's a large number of people talking like this, which was not the case. But they are shallow. They're not doing original research, and they're just copying, pasting, and recycling this material. So I feel that a large number of these literary festivals and manthans and these think tank, what they call think tank, are not doing serious work. So in that sense, the intellectual space has become shallower. The leftists had better depth. I don't agree with their premises and I don't agree with the content, but I must say that they had scholars who really put a lot of hard work, more rigor, better attention span. They had a stronger ecosystem than what we call the right wing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally 100% agree with you. I mean, I also was in the mainstream commercial filmmaking, typical materialistic, I won't say glamorous, but materialistic, where everything was about numbers and the glamour and the bigness. Then one day I said, no, it's time for me to quit. And I also quit in 2010. And I said, now I'll create products which I believe are missing from the entertainment of visual narrative scenario. And so the whole journey started one after another. I made all these. My intention was, I believe that we should create products. Just sitting in some literature festival or in television news as an expert and just blasting some Maulana or just abusing somebody, going to a literature festival, taking out all your frustrations, or just inviting anybody in literature festival who have nothing to do with literature. So this prostitutionalizing of the word of literature irritates me. So I said independently I should create products. So we have been one after another, we are opening chapters.
Tremendous.
Which are making people think.
Yeah.
See, you are giving theories. My job is to see the whether right wing likes it or not. The job of art is to provoke.
Yes, yes.
To offend.
Yes, of scholarship and art.
Yeah, both is to offend,
Yes.
to disrupt, to
Yes.
go away from the status quo and ask questions.
If a certain number of people aren't pissed off at my work, then I haven't done a good job. Because then I'm just playing to the gallery.
एक second, good light in kitchen. Okay, so I've been on both the sides, and I'm working also most of the unit. You know, whatever I try, the crew is little woke, and they are very American, wannabe American wokes.
Wannabes.
Wannabes. But one thing I like about the leftist academy and their scholars and their thinkers, I'm on the absolutely on the other side of. But one thing I like is that they keep raising questions all the time. Okay? Problem with the right wing in India is they are not raising independent questions. They are raising questions on the questions of the left wing.
Right. They're just reacting.
If left wing says, okay, there is no binary. Okay, why shouldn't I have the freedom to choose what gender I want to? Whatever I feel like, that's what I am. They raise a question, why not?
Right.
Then we are saying, who has given you right to say that?
Right.
This is where I think we have a big fundamental problem between left wing and right wing in India. And also you see right wing in India does not have any entity of its own. It's like a parasite which is surviving on the government of the day. Suppose if the government is not right wing, do you have the muscle to survive? Do you have the stamina to survive?
There are no genuine think tanks. My goal has been to start a think tank.
Yeah.
Infinity Foundation as a think tank, which is independent of government or guru or party or any of that, and will produce good solid scholarship without depending on anybody. Yeah. But we need a lot more of those. That the left wing have. They have a lot of competitors to Infinity Foundation, the left wing, but we do not have enough of our type. So we have not made an investment in real good think tanks and get people into this as a career. It's not a part-time hobby. A lot of the right-wing so-called intellectuals are doing it as a part-time thing. You know, this is a career. Like I have to quit everything and do this as my career. This is
what it's a career. Yeah,
it's a career.
It's not short term.
So this is what's missing. There aren't enough right-wing actual career intellectuals. And you mentioned product. You're producing film. That's a product. I'm producing book as a product. Neither you have the time nor I have the time to go on to this Manthan and that film festival and that think tank and that this and that. You know, just giving a tour. There are some people who go every week and give a talk here, talk there.
Yeah.
But they're not producing anything.
Yeah.
They're not productive in outputting some actual content, some product of their own. But they are just marketing without a product. Marketing themselves.
And another thing is appropriation of values. Now left at least they have appropriated this LGBT thing, human rights things, equality. They always talk about education and health. And we attack them, we get outraged and attacked. Then what happens is we start criticizing education and health sector per se. You know, like for example, if you talk about air pollution today, Okay, you'll find it's always the right wing which will start trolling you. How dare you talk about pollution? If you want development, you will get pollution.
Yeah.
Whereas left wing will come with data, figures, facts, and they'll create as if this is the biggest problem.
So now the AQI of 360, 400 has become like normal. People people say कि नहीं ये normal है आपको. It's like what's unhealthy is you're supposed to put up with it and find it's okay. And if you don't like it, then they think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Then you are.
I was in Noida, it was 700.
Yeah.
700 AQI. It's like in gas chamber of Hitler.
The lifespan has gone down by 5 to 8 years, as some people estimate.
I'm
It's like
suffering.
that.
See my voice?
Yeah.
I am coughing and sneezing every single morning for an hour because of this pollution, and that's why I run away from Bombay.
Yeah.
It's becoming almost impossible for me to live here.
Right.
And so this is a problem. Anyways, so coming back to, I believe you were invited by the Trump administration.
Before
for
we
inauguration.
before we leave, can I pick your brain? Okay. I am also an AI guy from way back. Now AI is disrupting even the film industry because they're able to make deep fakes very authentically.
Yeah.
I mean, you can give a script and it will enact it for you. You can even say, I want this face, that first actor and all that. So a lot of people are making documentaries without shooting anything.
Yeah.
And this is going to only get better and better in terms of how genuine it looks. How do you feel about this? What do you think is going on? And what will be the effect on the film industry with AI replacing a lot of the labor intensive acting, all of that?
So there are 2-3 aspects to it. Number one is aesthetics. Okay, it's going to change the aesthetics. The entire aesthetic sense of the generation which is going to grow with AI is going to be very different from my generation. So there is going to be a little bit of conflict for 5, 6, 7 years. Then again, people will adjust to the new one. So aesthetics are going to change very dramatically. Even the colors, the way we say things, the way it's expressed, the speed of the motion, reflexes and all those things. That problem will be. Second thing is, the game is going to change. The business is going to change. Now, I go to, hypothetically speaking, I go and say, okay, Mr. Salman Khan, you just lend me your name and your face. I scan your face.
Right.
Please don't come to the shoot.
Right.
Right? And instead of taking, say, $100, if that's your fees, you charge me 20, 30, 40%.
Right.
Okay, just give me your name.
Right.
And I shoot with somebody, I pay him $1 and I shoot with him, and then AI replaces it with, because I've scanned Mr. Salman Khan.
Exactly.
So I got a Salman Khan movie at 60-70% lesser cost.
Right.
That is one thing. Third thing is writers. I have a problem. That's where I'm a little scared.
Writers also being replaced.
Easily. Today, I tried it. I say, okay, before I made the Delhi Files, I said, what should be the sequel of Kashmir Files trilogy, the last part? And this is Delhi Files, what should be the story? It gave me so many things which are written in my... So I said, write a synopsis in Vivek Agnihotri style. Almost matched it. It took the keywords and it calculated that what kind of thinking I have, what kind of ideology, picked up from Kashmir Files, picked up the criticism from somewhere, picked up the praise from somewhere, and I don't know how it works. So, but the problem is that writing will not be based on human experience. It will be based mostly on the virality of that thing. How many people have watched it, how many people have written about it. So it's coming from an intellectual space. Intellectual means it's coming from the left brain space, not the instinctive space. So that is another problem. The biggest problem will come in experience based. Because when human eyes, I'm used to seeing human eyes in a certain way. I don't know how 40 years later people will, but next 10, 15 years are going to be difficult, because how will you understand that instinct of an actor? Okay, if it is AI generated, I'm not used to it. So it will be beautiful eyes, but perhaps that X factor of emotions, and that X factor I don't think AI can create.
So when we ask who is raising your children, it's also AI.
Yeah, I read about it.
So that's another thing we have to think about. It's all these international globalists who are doing this mischief, but there's also the people who own the AI technology, and India is not at par with China and USA and so on in AI technology. We have engineers, but they're working for other people. We've rented out the engineers to other people. So we don't have Indian chat GPT or Indian large language models and things like that. So we are in a sense also vulnerable to an AI based new kind of digital, I call it digital slavery, a digital caste system, where there will be people who control the technology, and there are people who are middle level, who are laborers, workers, engineers working for them, वो मालिक हैं, उनका नौकरी कर रहे हैं, and then there'll be the masses who are just consuming. And so this is another pyramid, another hierarchy about to come.
That's why I always say algorithm is the new.
Algorithm, yes.
Yeah, it's going to decide one tweak in the algorithm, and the entire nation will start thinking differently.
And the algorithm will also be, it'll be running the governments. Large part of this DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, that will come to Trump, that Musk is leading. And they want to reduce the size of government by bring down 33% of the government immediately. They want to do that. A large part of it is going to be accomplished by putting in AI to substitute for bureaucrats. So policy making, implementation, more technology doing things and removing labor, human labor. So we are in for quite a lot of disruptions.
Okay, now I just want to, because you have a technical background, I want to understand one thing. The algorithm of Twitter pays you in dollars, literally pays you, you know that. So it pays you spread hate. You write 2 tweets, okay? In one you use hateful words, in one you use very positive, soothing, inspirational, spiritual words. You say weather is very beautiful. Okay, in the other one you say the weather is this and therefore this person should be killed or destroyed or some shit like that. And within 1 minute you will know which one is moving faster. Okay, I've done this experiment many times. So it's paying you for dividing the society, spreading hate. Even before Elon Musk, it's got nothing to do with Musk, it's a business model. Instagram is paying you money literally for promoting sexuality and this wokeism. Wokeism is the monopoly of that. YouTube is paying you to spread stupidity, absolute stupidity,
Right.
absolute cringe rubbish.
Right.
Facebook is paying you for spreading superstition. More you talk about these witches and black magic and all that, more money you will start getting from tomorrow. More you talk about these babas who have no credentials, nothing from anywhere, you'll get a lot of money. Now, if the algorithm is directing it, isn't this algorithm is the new deep state and they can overnight? I mean, doesn't the society, the civil society, sees the danger of this?
So I'll tell you what.
Why intellectuals are not bothered about it?
So intellectuals, some are. I mean, I am. But what is happening is, it's a reflection on society that what is viral is low level. Substandard things are easy to make viral. Than really serious stuff. The platforms want to make money. They're not against, they're not saying do stupid things and do sexual things. They're saying whatever sells, do it. Because the algorithm is optimizing money, which means whatever gets more clicks, whatever gets more views, you can make more advertising dollars by selling ads there. So if you put out a tweet and 1,000 people saw it, you'd make a certain amount of money because the ad value placed. And if somebody else put out a tweet and got 10,000, he's selling more ads, and so he'll get more royalty out of it. So the algorithm is basically following whatever goes viral and says. So therefore, it's a reflection on human beings that they are more interested in the pornography, they are more interested in stupid things. So you see, this is a reflection on that's how society is. So the algorithm is exploiting कि society को ये चाहिए उनको दे देंगे, उनको जहर चाहिए तो जहर दे देंगे.
Regulated भी नहीं है,
regulated भी नहीं है. So the real thing is, it is irresponsible for these very ultra-rich billionaire type people to exploit social weakness and manipulate them by supplying them what their instincts want, even if it's bad for them. It's sort of almost like saying कि लोगों को शराब बांटो और drugs बांटो because that's what sells and we can make more money out of it.
So in on one hand, politicians are exploiting communal frenzy, and these tycoons, they are exploiting human greed.
Yes.
Then the common person, and the AI is coming so rapidly.
Right.
So where does the common man? Will there be any original thinking left?
This is the issue. This is a very serious issue. So I think what needs to be done is we need to raise our consciousness. This is a spiritual process. If we raise our consciousness to a level that which is not just mechanical decision making, that's something AI cannot get to. Because AI can get to mechanically reproduce thoughts and so on.
Yeah.
But what is genuine creativity and spiritually higher up, that is beyond AI. I'm
no,
convinced
because AI is all repetition based.
Yeah, it
more
is.
repetition of keywords.
Yeah.
And whereas original thinking has no repetition.
And it's a giant system of recognizing patterns. Statistical patterns, and saying, okay, this thing works more than that thing, so we'll go with this. And creativity is not repetitious based on previous patterns. It's something totally original.
Yeah.
So I think the future of humanity is that those who are able to go beyond this level of ordinary intelligence into a higher level of consciousness will have a tremendous future. And those who are not will probably succumb to AI replacing them.
So I don't know if you are aware of our foundation. The only project now I do is called Creative Consciousness Project. Okay, I do it from my own narrative. The idea is that I work with a lot of young people. How do you make them aware of consciousness? The minute you say consciousness, okay, they say it's something about old people. My father also talks like that. I am 18, 19, I'm in first year college. Why should I get into this meditation? They think about that. So I recognize that problem. I'm telling you how I work. I have a strategy, I have a style of working. So I said, but all of them are attracted to a word creative. And ultimately, it's all about creation. When your consciousness is ultimately you are exploring the creation. So I said, why not use the word creative consciousness? And that suddenly started attracting lots of young boys and girls. So what I'm doing is I'm picking up Hindu philosophy and I'm presenting it in a very a young manner, So I know the keywords which they like and they understand. And that is now, after many years of my lot of hard work, a lot of people ridiculing, why are you doing it? Who cares? Now it's bearing fruits.
Wonderful.
It's coming back. I wrote the book of life. Easy things, And now it is, everybody's liking it, And so many people are joining. And wherever I go, people say, yes, sir, you are right. We are born creators. And if we have the consciousness, we can do better work.
I will join. I want to join.
I'm planning to start a school of creativity in next couple of years. So I'm taking a big land, creating a school of creativity. India has no school of creativity. And I realize that if a country wants to be rich, you have to have innovations.
Yes.
You have to have creative minds.
Right.
The problem with religion and politics-centered society is the elimination of creativity. Poetry, art, literature, science and philosophy. These things are attacked first because they take you into areas where stupidity can't enter. Right? And people, because easy to rule the stupidity.
Right. So these are threatening.
Yeah. Like you. Right. You can be equally threatening to the left ecosystem and right ecosystem.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And they are both targeting me. Yes.
You are a threat to extremists.
Yes. Anybody who is not creative enough, and I can challenge them, question them.
Tell me a fundamentalist, why would he write a book like that? Only a person who is experimenting with ideas and ideologies will write a book like that. Your book, that Ganges book. Why will anybody bother to write that? So you are doing it anyway. So now tell me, you were invited by Trump administration. We'll close with your experience over there.
So I am not a Republican or Democrat in terms of donating. I used to vote Democrat I've lived in the United States almost 55 years. I was Democrat. But in the since Obama, I stopped supporting them because I thought they've gone too woke. And the right wing also bothered me because they have some issues also. So I didn't participate either way. But I am anti-woke ideologically. I've been writing a lot. I've been speaking a lot. So I got a call from the Trump transition team and inauguration team. There's a whole concentric circles, a whole lot of ecosystem around Trump now. So some of those people who are associated with these movements, the new movements, contacted me and said, we'd like to invite you to come to Washington for 4 days during the inauguration. There'll be a lot of side meetings. You get to meet some of the cabinet nominees and be in brainstorms, and we'd like your input here, that way. So I started participating. Some were online, conference calls, some were actual meetings. And I developed a good appreciation for Trump. Now, one doesn't have to agree with everything, one doesn't have to disagree with everything, but I'll tell you some very daring, bold things that he's doing. He is, first of all, domestic ethos, the whole domestic policy is based on anti-woke. He wants to get rid of this extreme left-wing, extreme progressive liberals that have come in and created the problems that I'm writing about. So in a sense, it's music to my ears, because I think, and also I must say that nobody in India invited me to give input to the government or anything like that. It's very close who gets in and who they listen to. Fine, it's okay, it's none of my business. But the United States is more, the government, at least this government, more interested. And I found that they were very open-minded. They were very open-minded to listening to people, whether they were agreeing, disagreeing, but they were really keen on listening to what the public has to say. The reason Trump won, I think, is because he got connected with what's going on in the minds of people. He was very quick at that, and he started putting that out, that I understand you and I'm going to make changes. And he's keeping his promises. So I have to say that he read the pulse of the public, and he is going after the issues that he promised he would. So while India is looking at it more from foreign policy, will he put tariffs and what will happen to H-1B and those kind of things, then I can see India has a stake in all that. But I'm looking at it, living in the United States, I'm looking at the impact on society within the United States and how it will affect the rest of the world. And this anti-woke is a big wave. It's not a 4-year wave, because while Trump has only 4 years left, he's going to create his successors who will go on for another 2 terms. So it's more like a 12-year wave. And I feel that this 12-year wave will reshape America. Government, courts, legal system, education system, private sector, things are going to change. And it's very important for India, policymakers and people in general, to begin to go deeper than just the sensational value of what's the news headline. Try to understand what is this Trump ideology, because there is a clear Trump ideology.
Yeah, that is there.
There is a clear Trump ideology. He's not some random guy.
No. And he is not what people think. I think he has a strategy, a long-term vision, like you said. He is not such an idiot that he can do anything.
He's actually a very intelligent man.
Yeah.
He plays this game of throwing people off, saying, "मैं आज तुम्हारे को मार दूंगा, आज उसके पीछे I'll go and capture this."
He brings them on negotiating table and makes sure that everything comes to his advantage.
Right. So he's throwing people off. He's attacking these guys to scare those people, and so he's a master at keeping people guessing. Guessing as to what is he going to do, and playing this game and cutting a deal then. So he may demand, like for instance, let's take a few things that people think are ridiculous. He says he wants to take over by Greenland. Now, Greenland is a massive place, massive continent, and rich in all kind of ways. But if you look at the history of United States, United States bought Alaska for a few $1 million from the Russians. It was a purchase, like you buy a piece of land. But it's so huge. I mean, maybe, I don't know, it's half the size of India. Something like that. Huge amount of land. Huge amount of land. There was something called the Louisiana Purchase, which was like maybe 20% or 25% of the United States land was bought from French. Now, that was also bought for several $1 million. Not billion, but several $1 million. Then, there were several purchases like Florida and all from Spain. There were purchases from Britain. So most of the United States was not the original 13 colonies which got independence, fighting George Washington, fighting and getting independence. That was maybe like 15% of the land. The rest of it, 85%, has been acquired afterwards, and much of it as a real estate transactions. So it's not unreasonable that this guy wants to buy Greenland, because America has done this before. And Napoleon didn't want to sell the Louisiana, but a few years later he sold it to the United States. So Greenland, similarly Panama. He says that he wanted to take back the Panama Canal, which used to be American owned, and Carter gave it as a gift, foolishly. Okay, so maybe it will not be like owned by America, but maybe they'll give a long-term lease. Okay, and maybe they'll say that your Navy ships can have preferences, whatnot and whatnot. Like China has this one belt, one road. It is not a purchase, but they get a 99-year lease from Maldives or from Sri Lanka, and they own some port, and then they control it for all practical purposes. It belongs to them, but it's a lease. So he might do things of that sort while saying, I'm going to own Gaza. That's the latest thing. But maybe there'll be some kind of a deal where there'll be US. But maybe what it means ultimately, the settlement will be there is a US base. Okay, and there's a US base in Panama. And there's a US base in Greenland. And these are 99-year leases. And that will serve the purpose. While the drama is, I'm going to buy it out. So he's thinking many levels. Where he's starting is not what he'll do, but it's a way to get attention, scare some people off, and then cut some deal. So he's a smart guy.
Yeah, so whatever happens, but I know one thing for sure, next 2-3 years are not going to be boring in US. A lot of disruption is going to take place. And I pray to God, I'm a great believer of Saraswati. Okay, so it was great talking to you. And we'll continue talking, and hopefully I'll talk to you again in April, 20th of April 2025. You are completing 30 years of Infinity Foundation.
Fantastic.
So what is the event? What are you doing?
So we already completed 30 years last December, but we're celebrating when the weather is a little nicer.
Yeah.
And we're expecting 2,000 people and
That's massive.
You are one of the dignitaries. You have to come and speak, and so people from India, about 50 people or so, people from Canada, people from UK, Scotland, California, all over. So the idea is to celebrate our accomplishments. What have we achieved in 30 years? A lot of paradigms have been changed. A lot of new frameworks have come out. So a lot of people who have benefited will explain how it's changed their lives. A lot of organizations, a lot of individuals. So it'll be people from different walks of life. Media, activists, scholars, university people, people in politics, gurus, spiritual gurus, different kinds of people who have their idea of this Hindu and Vedic and Indian and open thinking. It's actually not a Hindu Renaissance. It is more of the true liberalism. This is true liberalism.
As ingrained in our Hindu philosophy.
This is a true liberalism, and which our philosophy is actually liberalism, that you investigate, you question,
inquire, question, experiment.
Skepticism, argumentation. That is the liberalism, not what the liberal people call liberalism.
No.
Yeah. So I am liberal in that sense.
Same here.
Yeah.
Seeking.
Yes.
Understanding. That's how I'm
Yes.
liberal.
So it's a way to celebrate that and what we have achieved and what more needs to be done. And because I'm also turning 75 myself, so I'm also passing things on to the next generation.
Very good.
And one of the products we're going to launch is an AI product. We've been working for 3 years. People ask that, you do a lot of Q&A and you answer questions in a certain way. Who's going to do that? So we are creating an AI product called Ask Rajiv. And we are training this AI system on my books and my videos and my blogs to basically train my ideology and my way of thinking.
Wow.
So that if you ask a question, it'll answer like me. And we've already trained it for 2 of my books. We're going to train it on all 16 of my books. We have a whole team training this AI system. We're going to launch that system.
Very good. I think if that, I'm sure it will become successful. And slowly you can expand and make an app. So more and more authors, writers, creative people will benefit from that.
Right.
So I think that this is what I mean.
Yeah.
Create products, own them.
Yes.
Problem is we are not creating products. Anyway, so it was great talking. It's been a long talk with you, but I pray to Ma Saraswati that it keeps giving you energy and bless you all the times to keep doing great work,
And
which
I
you've been
want
doing.
to also tell you that you're one of my favorites because you are very productive, very original. Each one is unique piece of work that you've done, product, your films, and you do it from the heart, and you are very successful. And
Thank
may
you.
the divine keep giving you more and more shakti and more power to you.
I'll show you the Delhi Files is coming on the 15th August. The first part is called Bengal chapter.
Okay.
One thing I can say, you will be very, very proud of this film.
Uh, you invite me to the inauguration,
Yeah.
I'll be there. Wherever it's in the world, you tell me in advance.
I'm planning to hold one or two screenings in US, probably
Okay.
in New York and
Okay.
Washington DC
Okay.
and Houston.
You
Three
tell
places.
me and I'll be there.
I'll let you. Thank you, Rajiv ji. I
Thank
wish
you.
you all the best. And with this book, and this is published by
Blue One.
Ink.
Yeah, Blue One Ink.
Ink.
Yes.
And if you want, you can go to Ink website or you can go to Amazon and order this wonderful book. It's very well published. I like the quality of pages, the cover, and this is like embossed, very rare. And so please buy this book. How much does it cost in India?
I think 6.99, but they sell it at discount.
Yeah, but then-
Should I tell you the cover design?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. You like it. This is the open mouth of a snake. This is open mouth of a snake.
Oh yeah.
And children are walking into the snake. Okay. So the snake is called Agasura. It's in our
In the book,
in our-
yeah, we've written about
we
it.
have written about it. So this snake, the legend is that this snake was 7-8 miles long, and it opened its mouth and looked like a cave, and all the kids would enter thinking this is a playground, like a Disney World kind of a thing, and of course they would get sucked in and never get out. And Krishna had to take care of this guy, this demon. So that's the metaphor of who's raising your children. Are your children being sucked into this new kind of a thing, which looks very exciting, and the children are being drawn into it? All the glitter, all the excitement, they're being drawn into it. That's the Agasura open, and this is a cave that kids are going in, and they're being destroyed. So now we need the what Krishna did. We, the intellectuals, have to do that to take care of the snake.
Oh, correct. Definitely we'll do that, and that's what we are trying to do. And I am a great believer that definitely we'll do, and light will shine on us. Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thanks a lot. And let's go home.
Yes.
Pallavi is waiting for dinner.
Let's do it. Time for that.
So, thank you for being with us. And once again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.